First National Bank began 5 years after the end of the Civil War in 1870 as Silverman Cook and Company on the corner of 2nd Street and Iowa Avenue. In the next few minutes, we'll trace the growth of our fledgling bank from its modest beginnings through nearly 150 years of service to Muscatine, while also getting the perspective of a few of our retirees. But first, we thought it'd be a good idea to see how Scott would have looked if he was a banker back in 1870. When we opened our doors, there wasn't running water in Muscatine and downtown was lit by gas streetlights. In 1875, P.M. Musser became a partner and the name changed to Cook Musser & Company. His addition brought a name of influence to the growing bank. The town was bustling in the 1890s and demand for business dictated a bit different makeup. To name a few, there were 5 banks, 6 blacksmiths, 2 ice makers, 8 cigar dealers, 5 saddle makers, and of course, 25 attorneys. The 1900s showed increased prosperity for the community, as shown by this check from 1901 drawn on Cook Musser & Company in the whopping amount of 17 cents. And check out the activity on the street. Yes, those were elephants. To accommodate growth, a new bank building was built on the existing site in 1910. It was designed by Paul Hyland of Chicago, the same architect that later designed the Hotel Muscatine. During construction, the bank operated out of a storefront across Iowa Avenue. At the same time, the bank name was changed to Muscatine State Bank. If you're counting, this is name change number 3. In 1919, the year following World War I armistice, Cliff Musser assumed the position of president after the passing of his father. This is a picture of PM and Julia's 50th wedding anniversary. Cliff is on the arm of the couch next to his father. In 1920, we celebrate our 50th anniversary by decorating the lobby a bit. During the Roaring 20s, there was plenty of activity on 2nd Street, but not every day was a dry one. This is looking up 2nd Street toward East Hill. Our bank continued to grow, and we continued to lend. Here you can see a loan in the amount of $2,200 for 2 Model O's and a couple of Model T's. By 1933, a third of the nation's banks had failed. An excerpt from a 1945 speech encapsulating this time. When the bank holiday was ordered in March of 1933, the officers of this bank were confident that they would have weathered the storm had they been permitted to work out the problem on their own. But Uncle Sam insisted. Inspired by C.R. Musser and his wife Margaret, the descendants of Peter Musser joined with them in perhaps an unprecedented act of contributing what it took to restore life to the bank by meeting all requirements voluntarily and from their own resources. By this prompt action, the whole community and all its business concerns were spared untold inconvenience. No other local banking facility became available for more than 2 months. Our bank reopened as Muscatine Bank and Trust on April 10, 1933. Proudly, our customers did not lose a penny of their deposits. Margaret Mathis, a 44-year employee, has some perspective on this.
Well, way back in the beginning, it was the Musser Bank. And of course, that meant something. They never ever had to close, where the other banks, some of them had to. But Mr. Musser made sure that he had enough money in there for everybody if they wanted to withdraw their money. And he never closed, or he never told them they couldn't get their money out.
As the country entered World War II, it was business as usual. In 1940, W.E. Downer assumed the role of president from Mr. Musser.
I worked with a lot of good presidents, many presidents while I was there. Mr. McKee was the start, and Mr. Allen, and that was the war years back in those days. And so Mr. Allen was sent off to service when I started there. So I didn't know him right at first, but he was a lieutenant colonel.
Following W.E. Downer's presidency, B.L. McKee was named to the post in 1958. And upon his death in 1961, F.W. Allen assumed the position of president. 1961 also brought another step in growth. The first Walkin DriveIn was added to more easily meet customer demand.
We were the first drive-in bank in Muscatine.
State of the art?
It was. Yeah. Chandelier, beautiful, had ladies come and clean the light fixtures. It was really uptown stuff.
But it had a minor design flaw.
When the windows broke, our drawers got kind of sucked open, and our money was just going out the windows. And that was a big story because we had people we'd run outside and gather up money and put it in the waste baskets. Me and Kay Franklin, we were the only ones there and that customer. And people would be going by and the money was in their wipers. Anyway, we had people bringing money back from down on the riverfront, And I think we only got off of $60-some, and that was it was like nothing compared to all of our money that was going out.
In 1963, George Shepley moved his family to Muscatine from Joliet, Illinois, when he was appointed president.
And then Mr. Shepley came. I'd been there, I think, 25 years when Mr. Shepley arrived. And he was very nice. And he had 2 boys and 2 girls. And they worked there off and on in the summer months.
Mr. Shepley was an exciting individual, very people-oriented. If you told him, if he met you one time, he remembered your name. Always. He had a gift of remembering people's names, which means a lot to everyone. We had a lot of customers at our bank.
And he watched all the customers come in and he
Yes.
would leave his office all the time to go out and shake their hands and talk to them, and no matter what he was doing, he always did that, acknowledged.
Very personable. And his wife looked like Elizabeth Taylor. Didn't she?
Yeah, they were very, very classy, charming
Classy couple.
people. Yeah.
His philosophy of banking was community, period. Both from the deposit side and the loan side. And whenever he did anything, it was to make Muscatine grow, what he thought would help Muscatine. And we, at that time, were the lending bank, major lending bank, because he felt that helping businesses and helping those customers maintain their businesses is what made the community grow. That was just his philosophy of community. And that's what he thinks, that's what he felt, in my opinion, that's what he felt banking was all about, period. So he expected his employees to follow that philosophy too.
One of George's first orders of business was once again remodeling the interior of the main bank. The open house was scheduled on Friday afternoon, and the Muscatine Journal reported that the bank had 4,000 visitors tour the facility that day. In 1966, we went through our 5th and final name change when we chartered as a national bank and became First National Bank of Muscatine. We moved our main bank headquarters east on 2nd Street in 1978 to our current 50,000 square foot location. The building was designed by Stanley Consultants. George Shepley was quoted as saying, "It testifies to our confidence in Muscatine. Exciting things are happening throughout Muscatine, and we're glad to be part of it."
We'd take turns working on Friday nights because we'd be open on Friday nights.
Till 8 o'clock.
Yep. And some Saturday, well, in the very beginning, in the 60s, we worked Friday nights and Saturday mornings. So you pretty much, you didn't take a long weekend trip too many times because you had to be there, and there was a break during Friday night for your supper break. But Friday nights were always a big time because families would come downtown and go shopping, and it was a big social event pretty much, and then you got your banking business done too.
Our holding company, Iowa First Bankshares, was formed in 1984 with the purchase of First National Bank in Fairfield, a strong ag bank and a vibrant community. Mr. Shepley moved to chairman in 1989, and Paul Payne was named to the president's seat. In 1990, the president's position opened, and Scott Inkstead brought his family back from Kansas City to assume the helm.
Well known and well liked and respected in the community, and a hometown boy that was in sports, and that a lot of people would recognize, and they'd come in the bank, to meet and whatever, and he would know basically who their fathers were and who their uncles were.
Scott brought many connections with him to the bank, including his mother Bernice, who had recently retired from the bank after 20 years of service. And Scott boasted the significant resume achievement of serving as George's paperboy as a young man. It's true, it's clearly all about networking, and this proves you can't start too young.
And he's an excellent lender, and he's got an excellent lending staff. And they're excellent at risk rating, and I feel they do it, as far as the lending side of it, they do a top-notch job. That was kind of Scott's focus when he came, and he accomplished that, and has all the time that I was here, everything was really going well.
The next few years brought a flurry of remodeling and branching changes to better serve our customers. Throughout our rich history, a basic tenet we have operated by is the need to support the growth and stability of our community. Here is an excerpt from a bank letter encouraging a new business from Omaha back in 1919. We are interested in bringing new enterprises to Muscatine, and we believe this is one which will be a big help in building up our town.
I remember my father-in-law saying that, and that would have been back in the 1960s and 70s, that First National was more of a lending bank. I think First National gave a lot of businesses more of a chance.
That would be,
you know, to grow and to build.
A couple of businesses that have placed ads to thank us for our partnership. Musco recognized George Shepley for supporting them at critical times, making their business growth possible. Debbie Duncan of Pro Hair thanked us for believing in her and financing her dreams. We now support the next generation of owners of Pro Hair in the very same way.
First National Bank of Muscatine has always been known as a lending bank. We have over $250 million of credits, of which $165 million are commercial related. Those include credits such as landlords that provide affordable housing in Muscatine, could be a daycare provider that expanded out of her home to buy a commercial location and have over 100 children in her daycare at this point in time. In addition, we've worked with a third generation of owners of a local silo construction business that also has a fabrication shop and a major employer in our market. Finally, I'd like to mention that we started working with a local lighting company that's grown from a very small shop to a company that has employees of over 1,000 persons worldwide that provides lighting not only for Little League projects, but also for things like NASCAR. So it's been an exciting thing that we're able to do for the community, and we're glad to be a part of it.
The second tenet we have consciously engaged in is generosity to our community.
I think the bank's commitment to the community is huge. They lend more than money. They lend their personnel, their space, their fixtures. They've helped enormously with the Kids First program, which I deal with on a daily basis, and they never say no.
We've been a community bank since 1870. I've only been around about half that time, having opened my first account at First National in the 60s. Somebody told me a long time ago that if you want to examine the success of a small town, look at the level of commitment of its local banks, lending, volunteering, and providing financial support for workwell projects. I think that's especially true in Muscatine, and I think First National Bank has done its share in my hometown.
We ask our retirees, how has the banking biz changed?
They needed someone to cover lunches over at the drive-in, so I would go over and cover 2 lunches, and I'd work right out of that teller's drawer. And at 2 o'clock when they closed at 2. Open 8 till 2. And if you balanced, you could go home.
Banker's hours.
We did have banker's hours then.
When I started in '66, at the end of the month, for statements and whatever, bookkeeping would bring all the trays of canceled checks and everything, and everybody in the bank had to put them in the envelope to get them all out, because you had to do that like in a day's time, didn't you?
Prepare the statements.
Yeah, the statements out, and so everybody had to do that to help. Everything else stopped pretty much.
Like New Year's Eve, we might be there till about midnight because you had to finish up everything that night, cancel checks, and get everything ready to mail out. And so our New Year's Eve was kind of slow. It was not too much fun.
Margaret was our cashier at the time, and when it was the 15th or the 30th, she had to get the payroll numbers, and she actually counted out the cash and put it in our envelopes with our name on it. And I can remember the first time I got a $100 bill in mine. It was quite exciting.
We addressed everyone, especially our elders, but everyone, the customers and our bosses, as Mr. and Mrs. There was no Ms., you know.
I remember CDs at 16% and the lending rate at 20%. And now we're at the lowest low I've ever seen in my lifetime, which is long. And I can't hardly believe the rates that we see now. It's just mind-boggling to me.
We couldn't wear slacks, and it took a while to get ready for work. You know, you just didn't throw a pair of slacks on and brush your hair real quick and away you went. But
No, we look pretty.
we did. We looked pretty. We
My
still
God.
look pretty.
What does our future look like? We'd like to think more of the same. Simply good people doing the right thing for the right reason. It seems to have proven to be a pretty good recipe for success for our bank and for our community.
One of the best advantages I have had in my 25 years at First National Bank is working with great board members. Starting with Bev White, when I first came aboard, who volunteered for so many bank activities, I thought she was on our staff, all the way through to Larry Emmert, now a retired board member but still active businessman, to Vic McAvoy, our longest serving current board member, to Brett Nelson, our newest board member. All of these folks and everybody else on our board have always brought great community knowledge, business acumen, and a total commitment to our bank, for which we're very appreciative. They've really provided the blueprint for our success and our goals for the 21st century, which are to move onward and upward.